So yeah, so far we have covered in SwiftUI basic topics like we started with view modifier, then state binding, then like async await and list, horizontal stack, vertical stack, and what? And the last one, yeah, I covered this environment object, observed object, all those stuff. So I hope जिन लोगों ने अभी तक those who haven't started with SwiftUI, at least from last 5 6 sessions, they are a bit comfortable. And if you have already missed the previous sessions, please go through the recordings. And if you have any doubts, any concern, you can feel free to ask in the group, or even you can DM me. But yeah, it's recommended to ask in the group so when at least someone can even also reply if I'm not available. So the thing is, this whole motto regarding this batch to get prepared ourselves for the and we can help each other to to get prepared for those topics. So yeah, it's a team effort as well. So yeah, cool. So now today's we are going to cover the MVVM, and I hope this previous topic is clear. Any doubt, let me know, and also try to uh, you know hands-on or practice those topics in your current assignment. ठीक है? जितना practice करोगे, you feel more comfortable in those topics basically. So suppose you are using state binding or even you're using environment object. अब जैसे environment object is very basic concept कि you're basically limiting out the scope. Either it's a global level or at your basically your hierarchy level, right? मतलब इसमें कि something you're starting with screen 1 and then screen 2, 3, 4. So आप कुछ data you are basically initializing at screen 1 or you integrating that data to screen 1 and you want to use at the screen 4. Okay, so it's like a hierarchy level from 1 to 2, 3, 4. So you can directly assign to at the level of 4 and you don't need to pass the data unnecessary at level 2 and level 3. So it's a theoretically maybe you understood it, but obviously you need to practice these things so that you get more comfortable with this and you pretty okay with this thing. So yeah, I hope you're getting my point. So today we are going to start with MVVM. So let's start with the basic part. Even in UI kit, I the most of the audience are mostly here are experienced people, like 2 year, 3 year, or 5 year, 10 year, or more than 10 year as well. So yeah, most of the crowd comes from the UI kit background. So हम लोग काफी सालों से UI kit में use कर रहे हैं. We are pretty much comfortable with MVVM, right? So let's start with what is MVVM and how is it different from MVC and what are the problems in MVC. Okay, and I have a basic doc. I will come to MVVM SwiftUI. Also, the thing is the concept is most probably the similar. It's not like a very different in UI kit and SwiftUI. It's not like that. It's almost similar in both the contexts. But yeah, I started with the UI kit MVVM. So I hope you pretty aware about it, or at least you have a basic fundamental understanding of MVVM. So let me quickly run a poll once. So maybe few of the people who have no, as such previous experience to worked in the MVVM basically. So I'm running one poll to get in general what kind of audience today and how you are pretty comfortable with MVVM. So just a second. So one poll I've launched, please check in the chat section or in the poll section. You will have this poll. So there are 4 ratings in MVVM, and this is in general. It's not about UI kit or Swift UI. In general, if you have an understanding of MVVM, so please vote accordingly. 1 is like you have not at all understanding of Swift UI, sorry MVVM. 5 is like very basic understanding. 8 is like pretty good, and 10 is like your pro or master in this MVVM pattern. So yeah, please do vote in the poll. Yeah, Praveen, you have reason anything you want to ask? So yeah, out of around 22 people are here. Please do vote. 8 votes so far. I hope everyone is able to see the poll. The poll is there in your chat section, right? So we about to end this poll. Still, why people are not voting? 50% audience only actually. So cool. Even you're not able to find the poll, or you maybe join later in the session, you can send your response in the chat. Okay, like Tawhid has done. So yeah, thanks Tawhid for giving your vote actually. Yeah. So out of mostly people are at five, like so they have basic understanding of MVVM. One guy vote like for the one. So one person actually kind of not at all comfortable with MVVM, and other people like have 8 and 10 also. Cool. So get a basic idea. Okay, the people are like 50% against the audience are basic understanding in MVVM, 50% are like good at it, like the pro level kind of. Okay, fine. So when Apple introduced this iOS, and I'm going into that era when Objective C is in the picture, but let's not go to the Objective C part, but let's start with when we are started with the Swift development, maybe around 2015, 16. I think 2014 Apple introduced Swift, right? So later on, when companies start moving in Swift and Objective C kind of legacy or kind of going obsolete. So if you even consider you as a a college fresher or a very very beginner in iOS, so you can even build your app in MVC as well, right? It's not like your app is not going to build, or it's not like your Apple when you submit your app in the App Store, it's not going like the Apple going to reject that particular what your code, right? It's not like that. So even you can go with the MVC, but there are some problem with MVC. So anyone here who want to mention here like what problems with MVC? That's why we come to the MVVM, and why MVVM is like basically highly recommended or most usable architecture pattern in iOS applications. I think yeah, massive view controller. Yeah, that is one of the problem. Yes, Ankit. Thanks. Yeah, even you can drop your answers in chat also, or you can raise hand and you can answer. Unmute yourself also. So yeah, that is the one problem. Massive view controllers, definitely. I hope you're aware about this problem. I will come to this part. Any other problem apart from massive view controllers? Anything else? No code segregation. Yes. Testing is challenging. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that is also one of the major problem in MVC. You can say tight coupling. Absolutely. So it's like yeah. So all these points are actually relatable to one another. So yeah, the basic thing is the major problem start with the massive view controller. So yeah, basically in view controller we have whole code in view controller itself. Either it's a networking code, either it's a routing code, either it's a business logic, API calling, anything like. Okay. So if suppose you're putting everything in your view controller itself, so your view controller getting very massive, messy, and very heavy. So that actually represents this problem, which termed as a massive view controllers. I hope you heard about this problem. It's very famous term in the context of MVC versus MVVM, right? Then obviously testing is challenging. Why? Because the code is very tightly coupled. So these 2 points are relatable. Testing is challenging. Code segregation is not there, and yeah, testing, because if you want to write unit test cases, again, you don't have a separation of code. So how you will test, right? Unit wise functionality, or you can say very basic functionalities. If your if your code is very tightly coupled, so obviously it's challenging to test your code, particularly unit wise testing. I'm saying, right? So that is the problem in MVC, which is actually solved by the MVVM. You can say at some extent. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Other points are it's almost similar, yeah. And lack of protocol oriented. Yes, lack of protocol oriented, Gautam. Yes, it's also good point. So basically, yeah, Apple recommends to go with protocol oriented programming. We'll come to this topic also later on. Today I will talk about only MVVM, but yeah, the point is in MVVM, you have a good scope to implement this thing. And we normally follow this as well in our day-to-day development in the companies or in our projects. But in MVC, normally I don't think there's a scope, or even you will not go with that POP approach, right? You will go directly with the classes and instruct, and obviously you will not going to follow the POP approach kind of, which is actually recommended by Apple as well. And it's a good approach to make your code more, loosely coupled and more cleaner. But yeah, in MVC, there's no scope as so. Yeah, good point. And other points, hard to maintain for large application. Yes, absolutely. And no, follow solid principle. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I hope these are the concern. No clear data flow direction, yes, and hard to maintain for large applications. Obviously, if you're going with the large application, this massive view controller problem, code tightly coupled, then testing is difficult. And yeah, the code obviously not that scalable, not that clean code, not that testable code. So that are the major, actually you can say, pain points. And even if we come with the solid principle, this is actually planned in the coming sessions. We'll come to that in detail later on. But yeah, the point is solid principle is all also about like cleaner code, scalable code, and testable code. So obviously you can't do it in the MVC. So you obviously not going to follow the solid principle in your MVC pattern, but you can follow in your MVVM, Viper, and other patterns basically. Cool. So I hope everyone agree with this. So MVVM comes to picture, and what mean by MVVM? So let me quickly share my doc. I have one basic doc for the MVVM. Let me share my screen. And I hope my audio video clear. Any concern, let me know. I'm assuming it's clear. And let me know my screen visible, right? The doc is visible. Cool. Perfect. So what is MVVM? So obviously the name, I hope we already know about this so many times. So like model, view, and view model. So in MVC, what is happening? Or in even you can say, yeah, I will compare with MVC first itself. So in MVC, basically your view controller and model, that's it, kind of, right? So M is like your model and VC is like your view controller. So everything is into the view controller itself, either your business logic or whatever it is. There's no segregation as such. But in MVVM, we come with this approach. Originally, actually, I think, as far as I remember, it is introduced by the Microsoft architect people with the term as MVVM. You can find out in Wikipedia. There is the original article it comes from. But later on, actually, iOS people or the Apple developers adapted this so much. So it's actually very famous in our iOS domain. I'm not sure about the front end or back end projects or even Android, but in iOS it is very famous MVVM. Even in other technologies also, it is very useful and very highly uh, day to day frequently people use this kind of architecture pattern. But yeah, so in iOS it is actually solving this major problem of massive view controller. And in MVVM, basically we are pretty sure, okay, model is all about that data part, okay, then view model is taking care of all the logic part, and view, which is the view component, which is only taking care of your to show that whatever you have, you just simply show it. So basically, the thumb rule is your view doesn't have any logic. You even people say this kind of term. Your view should be stupid. Stupid मतलब उसको खुद का दिमाग नहीं लगाना. You don't think at all. Whatever view model is sharing to you or telling you कि okay show this thing or that thing or in this format or in this condition you should show this or in this condition you show this thing. So whatever your view model actually deciding factor, or you can say main brain of the entire app or of your entire component. So view model have the brain part. View is basically the stupid part. He or she is not going to even think about it कि what is happening. जो भी view models को देगा, जो भी दिखाने को बोलेगा, जो भी कहने को कहेगा, simply view is going to represent that data. View is basically, but yeah, collecting the events callback, but again obviously passing to view model, and then view model decide कि क्या करना है, like what needs to be done, right? Rahul, yeah, we'll come to this part later on. Right now, today we are into MVVM architecture pattern, but yeah, there is a difference between, obviously. We'll come to this later. So the point is कि यहाँ पे we actually segregated our MVC to the MVVM, and we pretty sure about it कि okay, view model is taking care of all business logic and other logic also. मतलब it's come to even your business logic or your state binding wala thing, or even your routing logic. So even if you know Viper has a separate component router layer, right? uh, I will come to that again later in another session, but yeah, right now you can understand even MVVM. You know, one thing maybe you heard about it or you know already, MVVM also is not like every company follows the same kind of MVVM. They have their own variations. You know about it? MVVM has their own variations. Every company has their own kind of MVVM. So it's basically just a, you can say, a personal call or personal choice how you actually want to implement your MVVM with some extra variation, some extra layer, some extra, POP approach, protocol integrated programming, and all that thing. Yeah, yes, Ankit. Kind of with router also. So it depends actually. Again, it depends in your project or in your company how you actually implemented MVVM and what kind of practices you are following. Okay. But again, now today we are talking about with very basic MVVM stuff. Then you can have more layers, more complexity, more other stuff with the MVVM you can append or you can attach this thing, right? So yeah, so we are pretty clear about it. Ki view ke paas there is no brain, and obviously you don't have to put any logic in the view. That's the main thumb rule. View model is taking care of all the logic part, and model is nothing but your data part basically. So it's a model part kind of. Okay. So let's go to the part. So in SwiftUI, if we say in the context of, so see here I have a user model basically, right? So it's nothing but your it's a kind of API model, right? So whenever I call the API, I'm going to get some data, which is basically you can say array of users, right? Here is a user model, right? So it's an array of user. So it's basically my pure struct or class, whatever. It is representing the data part, right? It's a pure Swift struct classes. Even I can use class here, no problem. Or I can use struct. It depends again my call or my choice, or depends on my context. If I really want this as a reference type or a struct type. Okay. So that actually depends or matters. Ki is it really you want, matlab you should go with this struct or class, right? Yes, Akshar.
हाय कुशल।
Yes, hi.
एक्चुअली आपसे मैं पूछना था कि जैसे हमने बोला ना कि एमवीवीएम में व्यू मॉडल में सारा बिजनेस लॉजिक होता है।
Yes, yes, yes.
तो बाय बिजनेस लॉजिक मेरा मतलब खाली ये तो नहीं है ना कि एपीआई कॉलिंग वाला ही काम होगा, और चीजें
ये
भी
और
होंगी
भी
आपको
चीज,
जैसे।
what about API calling? Suppose if you're doing some operation in your app, right? आप किस पे क्लिक भी कर रहे हो और you want to compute something, कुछ भी हो सकता है. It's not about, मतलब API calling is just a one example. In view model also we, जैसे example के लिए मैं कैसे बताऊं आपको, जैसे कि suppose you're getting some data एंड अगर आपको कुछ फॉर्मेटिंग करनी है, ठीक है, या फिर आपको कुछ उसमें अगेन कुछ लॉजिक इंप्लीमेंट करके आगे चीजें पास ऑन करनी, दैट अगेन टेकिंग केयर बाय व्यू मॉडल इटसेल्फ. उसके लिए आपका व्यू कुछ नहीं करेगा एटलीस्ट. व्यू को बस आपको डेटा बाइंड करना है. व्यू उस प्रॉपर्टी के साथ बाइंडेड रहेगा व्यू मॉडल की, और व्यू मॉडल टेकिंग केयर कर रहा है कि उसको जो भी फॉर्मेटिंग करनी है, जो भी लॉजिक लगाना है, वो सारी थिंग वहां पे एंड देन एक्चुअली यू गॉट द फाइनल रिजल्ट, एंड व्यू उस रिजल्ट को लेके आगे प्रेजेंट कर देगा. ठीक है. So it's like that.
ठीक। ओके।
For API calling, it's better to create separate. Yeah, obviously, Ankit. Basically, we obviously have a normally separate layer for this API calling, or we have network manager and all that thing. But yeah, so again, we are talking in the very basic context first. So yeah, so this is my model, right? Which is basic model. Then come to the view model part. So view model here again, this example is about API calling part or fetching the data. So this fetching the data obviously taken care by the view model. And suppose if I'm not following MVVM, then my this function actually moves to the view part itself. मतलब वो यहाँ पे होता है, नहीं sorry यहाँ नहीं, view में होता, right? ये यहाँ पे होता है basically. तो आई एम सीइंग लाइक दिस, तो उसमें व्यू मॉडल पिक्चर से निकल जाता, काइंड ऑफ यही मेथड मैं यहाँ डाल देता, राइट? इस व्यू के अंदर होता मेरे बेसिकली समथिंग लाइक दिस. तो और फिर ये जो व्यू मॉडल से जो बाइंडिंग हो रही है, ये सब ना होके डायरेक्टली मैं व्यू एक्चुअली कॉलिंग दिस फैच यूजर मे बी ऑन अपीयर, राइट? अभी भी ऑन अपीयर पे कॉल हो रहा है. यहाँ पे मैं डायरेक्टली फिर फैच यूजर का अंडर कॉल करता. अभी मैं एंडू करूंगा, पर मैं जैसे आपको एक बता रहा हूँ कि इफ यू आर नॉट फॉलोइंग एमवीवीएम, यू आर एक्चुअली गोइंग विद नॉर्मल direct approach without any following any pattern.
अरे
तो फिर
उसको
आप
रहने दे, बाकी वो जो बड़ा बड़ा कैंसिल कर।
सॉरी सॉरी, किसी का म्यूट रह गया था। आप प्लीज मेक श्योर आप लोग म्यूट पे रखें, जो लोग गलती से हाँ डिस्टर्ब ना हो। So sorry for yeah. So point is key, if you're not following any what not following any pattern, तो फिर आप एक ही में सब कुछ कर दो, राइट? यू कैन डू एवरीथिंग इन योर व्यू इटसेल्फ, विच इज बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो अगेन मैं जैसे हर बार बोलता हूँ, इन स्विफ्ट यूआई आपका व्यू इज एक्चुअली इक्विवेलेंट टू योर व्यू कंट्रोलर एंड इन यूआई किट, राइट? तो व्यू कंट्रोलर में भी आप सब कुछ कर ही सकते हो, यू कैन डू एनीथिंग इन व्यू कंट्रोलर, किसी ने मना नहीं किया, नो वन इज एक्चुअली स्टॉपिंग यू, but actually obviously we have this concern of testable clean code, scalable code and all that thing. That's why we going through or we are actually implementing this MVVM approach, right? So similarly here, right, if I'm not following this MVVM, so I can do anything or everything here itself in my view, right? So I'm undoing right now. So for this explanation purpose, I've done this thing. Okay. So yeah. So in view model, we actually fetching the data, whatever it is, and then the view part is basically nothing but it's going to observe, or it's going to basically, binding this thing. So basically, if you see in my list view, I'm fetching the data of users list, and whatever the list is coming, I'm showing that data. But whatever the logic of fetching the user or even formatting something, that is whole take care of my view model itself. So I created one my view model property, and in this view model, I have all this property, whatever, either users data or right now. So यहाँ पे ज़्यादा scope नहीं, there's very pretty straightforward example. But you can do a lot of things here also, right? If you're getting my point, right? So you have the array of data. Suppose again, the name is there. Suppose here email ID. Suppose there is a birth date, and you want to format that birth date. That formatting logic also you can write it in your view model, or even extension property of your model also, right? So you can do it in your model extension property. Normally we also do this kind of thing, but obviously your view is not going to do all that formatting thing. That is my point, right? So all the logic part should be covered by view model, and your view is basically simply in your view you have this list view, and simply आप इसमें property just map here. इसमें you obviously in your view is basically responsible for the styling part, I can say, right? The CSS part, if we used to call, right, in our web wala context mein. So the CSS part or the styling part, or this actually you can say structuring the how view should be look like, which is like font or color or title or like all these things that you can configure in the view part. Also, if that includes some logic, that logic you can again move to the view model part. और ऐसा होता है ना कभी कभी किसी लॉजिक में कि this flag is true then show this view, if this is false then hide this view. तो वो जो hide और show का लॉजिक है वो भी हम बेसिकली व्यू मॉडल में रखते हैं. That should be expected through comes to the view model again, क्योंकि व्यू को वहां पे ऐसा don't need to add this condition like कि if this condition equals to false or something like that. This obviously condition also should not be there or not recommended in the MVVM approach basically. I hope you're getting my point. So ठीक है, तो डेटा फ्लोज इस तरीके से होता है. whenever you get any event, तो वो व्यू मॉडल को बोलता है, व्यू मॉडल देन अगेन प्रोसेस करता है और fetch the data whatever the context is, then again वो आपको view को update मिल जाता है, then your view actually gets updated. That kind of flow I'm showing here. So ठीक है, so basically yeah, why MVVM is ideal in SwiftUI. So basically it's a state driven UI, decouples UI from logic. Again, basically the main concern is the logic part. We need to decouple it or separate it out from the view part, so testability gets improved. And yeah, that's make previews easier. That is SwiftUI related part. You can have mock data and you can show the preview. So I'm going to the Xcode. I have an example, so we'll better understand there. So far it's just a theoretical part. Let me share my Xcode and we'll come to that. So just a second. Okay, let me know once my screen is visible. Screen is visible, right? Xcode. Cool. Yeah. So let me quickly run this first. Then I will tell you, okay, here actually I'm doing everything in kind of view. Then I will move to this thing into view model. Okay. So let's quickly first run this thing. So what is happening here? It's basically again we are fetching some data. Okay, again मैं आपको एक चीज recommend करूंगा. Here I'm using this particular mocky.io. This is a good site if you want to play with mock APIs. So let me quickly show you this website I'm saying. So either you can sign up and all, you can do sign up and all that thing, but even without sign up, you can simply put your JSON here and it will create an API. So let me give you so again for creating JSON, don't manually आपको लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Go to ChatGPT directly and you can say directly कि anything like ठीक है. So I can create my model. तो अभी मैं आपको इसी का एग्जांपल दे देता हूँ. So how you can play with this for your practice purpose, I'm saying this. So suppose this is my model. So I can just copy paste it. Here identifiable or this kind of not required. So I can say write a JSON collection of objects. ठीक है, sample JSON चाहिए मुझे basically. So that I can do, right? So just for practice purpose, I'm showing you this thing. ठीक है, इतना ChatGPT को बोल दो तो basically वो आपको एक dummy sample JSON लाके दे देगा, right? Then you can just simply copy this. So जो भी if you really want this kind of response for again your practice purpose. हाँ, yes Ankit, I'm sharing you this URL in the chat section or in group maybe I will mention this thing. ठीक है, again it's not about कि मैं इस साइट को promote कर रहा हूँ. There are multiple websites for mock APIs or for testing scenarios या practice के लिए. तो मुझे ये एक्चुअली अच्छी लगी. एक दो और थी, मैं अभी नाम भूल रहा हूँ. मॉकेबल करके भी समथिंग है, मॉकेबल समथिंग. तो वो अभी मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा, पर आज टुडे आई यूज दिस थिंग फॉर अगेन माय क्रिएटिंग सैंपल डेटा. तो अभी जो भी मेरा जो ये सैंपल जेसन है मैं इसको कॉपी करूंगा. बस इसमें इमेज यूआरएल्स है, ये एक्चुअली डमी, दीज आर द डमी यूआरएल्स. तो ये यूआरएल वर्क नहीं करेंगे. यू नीड टू फाइंड आउट. मैंने जैसे आई नॉर्मली गो थ्रू गूगल, I taken some sample images, I put these URL here, and then I copied this JSON, and then I simply paste it here. Okay, so then you click on the create API, it directly create, and you can use this URL. So similarly, I'm using it here. No, this is free. This is free, Ankit. So for dummy or this is very for basic scenarios, it is free. अगर आपको बहुत तामझाम करना है तो it is paid, but for this basic stuff it is free, right? So yeah. So the similar thing you can see I'm using here as a app URL, right? API URL you can say. Let me put this like this API. Cool. Yeah. So what is happening here? So basically we are fetching a list of data. We are getting some images which we are loading here. And if you click on something, we have one detail screen also. We'll come to the navigation part also. Already we have covered in our previous session, but today also we'll see the navigation part. Okay, so this is a very basic thing. One list view, you can say again table view kind of in our UI kit. And once I'm clicking the cell, which is basically did select row kind of, so I'm coming to the detail screen, right? So it's similar like that. So now if you see in our list view, what is happening? I have my body that is again related to my this screen, right? This particular screen. But the point is key here again I'm calling my API also. So everything my code is here only. Network manager, API calling. Then I'm also managing this flag is loading. Okay, everything I'm managing from there itself. Even my alert part also. So let me show you. I have some basic alert here. So suppose my URL is not valid. So suppose let me. Then let's see if it's passing the data, or I will put it some wrong URL. Then how it's working? Let's see. See something like this. So if I'm a non-unvalid URL, or we are not getting data, or we are getting error from server, so this kind of error cases are handling. So I'm showing like this: server error, invalid response from the server. Please try again or contact or whatever. It's a generic message I'm showing, right? So how I configured this? So let me undo this. Okay, so basically here you can see this alert item. So I've configured for invalid URL, we are getting this kind of message, then unable to complete, then invalid response, and then invalid data. So right now we are getting, I think, invalid data, right? Invalid response. This we are getting actually invalid response, right? So invalid response, you can see from where I'm passing this thing from my here, this yeah. Invalid response here. In the network manager, you can see here. So again, here actually I'm following the pretty old approach again, and I've taken one sample project from the internet. But again, this is your task. You can convert this thing with the async await with the more cleaner and more less line of number of code, right? I hope everyone is pretty comfortable with async await. So even I can do it right away. It's very quickly easy, right? So this is your task. I will give you the sample project. You can simply you can clean this code, and this whole 10 or 12 lines of code goes into 4 lines of code kind of with async await, right? So yeah. So the point is again come to the MVVM part. So right now in my view itself on appear I'm calling this get appetizers, and then it is hitting and then fetching the data, and again by after fetching this data, uh if you see I have state kind of this thing, and that's it here. So when I'm getting the data, I'm actually loading this data in my list, right? So now I need to convert this into the view model approach, right? So I have the second variation of this in the view model itself. So let's go to this, but there I don't have this navigation stack. Let me copy this thing. I think this one is enough. See, now I have view model, and now if you can see in this code, I already have this navigation stack here. Cool. But I think detail view is not there, right? Let me copy this. Okay. This should be view model.architects. And this detail view, let me copy. This I actually later I've added this thing. So detail view, quickly let me copy this. Even I would recommend कि हम लोग एक इसको तो मैं व्यू में डाल रहा हूँ, पर एक व्यू हम लोग इसका व्यू मॉडल का I will create a separate folder. So first let me add detail view I've added, and view model. Okay, again this is very basic stuff. Okay, but in our project basically we have a feature specific folder structure, and in that folder we have, suppose again if I take an example of a banking app, or even you can say this any Amazon app or something you can consider. So Amazon has a lot of features, right? So you have like normal payment feature, you have product listing feature, you have refund feature, order tracking feature, then you have this Amazon Pay feature, right? Amazon Pay, right? Wallet feature. So all these feature, whichever the feature specific thing, you can have a separate folder, and then inside that folder you can have feature specific, your view controller, view model, view, and whatever other miscellaneous stuff, which also includes your enum and your localizable files if your language supports multiple languages. So all these things, or even network URLs, which we normally maintain through plist file, or other approaches also are there. So depends up to you. But the point is the feature specific stuff we will have into that folder specific. So basically I'm moving this my view model into this folder. Cool. Okay, so now see what here I'm doing. Let me first run this project. Okay. So now what we are doing, in the previously we are calling from again everything from list view. Now basically you see again only view model property, and this my list view model. See now what I'm doing again here. This task topic I will consider. I will come to this later on, but for now you can just understand ki, okay, basically this is whenever your app is launching, or it's like you're on a peer, you're hitting this API, right? So I'm hitting this get appetizer call, and whenever you're calling this API, you actually fetching the data. Then you can go in your network manager. So in network manager, which I already mentioned, I'm using this mock API for my current sample data, right? So we are getting this data from here. Then we again, this is a pretty old approach. You getting this data, then you're actually mapping with JSON decoder, and we are getting this data in this format, right? The collection of objects basically. Uh, so yeah, so once we get the data, then again move to our view part. So you consider one thing, you created list view model and then go into this list view model basically. So we understand this thing previously, observable object and observed object we already seen, right? So what is happening, you are basically observing this property. We already discussed about this, right? Published property, right? So basically published property used to tell which property you need to observe basically. So whenever it gets changed, it will actually compute your view again, right? So suppose if I remove this published property here, like if I remove this property, then if my appetizers get changed, I will not get a callback and my view is not going to update. Point is that, right? You're getting my point? So this is important. So this is basically you are saying in your SwiftUI code, or you are basically, yeah, SwiftUI code or your view model basically, which property you need to observe, and based on that, whenever it gets changed, you get this callback. So suppose again I'm running, so we are even showing loading indicator, we are showing even alert, right? We have already seen. So all these properties are actually observable from your view model basically. Okay, abhi to it's loading very fast, but again, if suppose you are having this, if I'm having invalid URL, so how alert is coming? Basically, I'm maintaining that alert part through view model itself. See, now loader comes and this error comes. So how this loader alert coming? If you can see here, so I'm configuring this alert item, right? And I'm getting the result. So basically, I'm seeing okay, my result is getting a success or error, right? So I hope you're already aware about result data type, right? We have this result data type which having two cases, success and error. So if you're getting success, then obviously you're getting your basically your data, right? Which is basically a collection of array of your model type, which is appetizer here, appetizer. And basically, if you're getting an error, then you have these cases. Okay, which kind of error it is, right? So what we are doing here in success case, so you're directly assigning your data, and we know we're already observing this data. So whenever this data is getting updated, your views actually update, and again it will load your list view, right? But suppose if you get the failure, so this is happening here right now, right? You are not getting the proper data, and then you are comparing which case you are coming into, which kind of error you are getting basically, and based on that you're actually showing the alert, right? So that is the way. And alert item, again you can see alert item, again we are observing, and then in our view it is mapped here. See, right here we actually mapping our alert item. So whenever my alert item is updating from my view model, it is reflecting here, because again published property, so we have basically data binding is there, right? So it will affect here, and it will basically showing your alert, right? So yeah, so the point is we basically segregating the view and business logic part. So alert wala thing, error handling thing, everything I move to my view model, right? Now my view, so if you see, now my view is not taking care of any logic part. It's simply showing my list. If I want to do some again view formatting, that thing I can do. If in my appetizer cell is again my normal cell, I can do some formatting here, or add some view property. You can add it here, right? But it's nothing to do with the logic part. That is my part. Only presentation part, only the view part. How to show that view with, if you can say, if I'm talking in the context of, if you want to declare some corner radius or something like that, or width height you want to change, or any constraint part, something like that you want to do, you can do it here, right? That you can do it in the view part. But logically, if you see nothing is there, your this calling your data, fetching data is already taking care of view model. Then again, when to show loader view, when to show alert, which is again taken care of by view model itself. We just configured it. Suppose if something comes up, just show it. we just binded that data, right? Through view model, we binded our alert item, and through view model, we binded our appetizer array, matlab basically our main data, right? So all these things we configured, and our loader also. See, we are showing loading view also, right? That is loader view. So all these things we configured, and whenever things happen, whenever something change, whenever some alert comes, whatever the condition is, which is basically taken care by view model itself, right? This view model is basically defining when to show what, and then based on that, your view actually reflecting those things, right? I hope you getting a point. You can thumbs up once. Any confusion here? Anyone getting this point? Cool. So you guys also please try. I hope already you aware about MVVM, but even we just taken some basic stuff of MVVM. But in SwiftUI, do try with this thing. Already we covered observed object and environment object, and then normal state binding everything, and even published variable attribute. So you are pretty much now ready for this thing. Now you can't say ki, okay Kushal, we don't know how observed object works, how published works. So published nothing but again you're basically defining which property you want to observe basically, right? And again we have seen observed object, state object, like these things to maintain the state basically. So we already seen in the last session ki you want to maintain the child state or not, you want to reset that state, which is your context basically. Based on that you can use observed object or state object, and already basic state binding we already seen these things, right, in the initial session. So the point is we aware about these basic concepts. Now you can simply go whatever you're doing in your view, make sure you're creating a view model, and then whatever all the logic you move to the view model part, and your view is basically just showing this thing basically, and you configure those things in the view part, but nothing logical should not be there in the view part, right? So that you can do. So do implement these things. I will share this this sample project also, but again in your current assignment in the job application, which is job application project which we started in our initial assignment, there you can again practice this thing, or even you can create your own scratch project and do practice of this view model part in SwiftUI, right? So we can, I think, stop it there. Today I need to take some questions also, but it will again extend. So we can wrap it here. We can take in the next session. Whichever topics we have covered so far, I will come to the interview questions part. Again, very basic topics we have covered so far, but yeah, these basic topics are really important. If you are not confident in this basic topic itself, obviously, suppose I'm giving an example, ki it's not about ki you should know the advanced stuff only. It's not like that. तो my point is like अभी भी जैसा होता है ना कि normally interviewer ask कि struct versus class ही पूछ लेते हैं, right? Still people ask struct versus class, right? You can raise hand. It's not about कि your 3-year experience, 5-year or 10-year, right? People still ask this very basic questions. So again, struct versus class, obviously it's very basic, right? But the point is कि we should know, right? कि struct versus class. Similarly, even sometimes people ask very basic question regarding app state, regarding your UI kit lifecycle also, right? Very basic questions. So similarly in SwiftUI we covered very basic fundamental so far, so we'll come to those basic questions, those basic understanding. We'll go some in deep dive also, wherever is required in our next session. So yeah, so in the meantime, please go through, if you have any missed previous sessions, go through the recordings, have hands-on practice, so that you have better understanding of these topics, right? Yes, Ankit. In Swift Plus, I'm not taking the concrete object of you. So my view control doesn't hold the. Yes, absolutely. So basically, yes, you're Ankit, you're right. It is recommended to actually you go with this approach only, protocol approach. And even in our current projects, or in our current which I'm doing day to day in my currently in my job also, we are following this approach only, right? So that is recommended approach. But again, I'm just started with basic MVVM is about that. Then again, these are extra more loosely coupled layers, and you can even more add network layer, routing layer, all that stuff, right? So that is your up to the thing. How much you can make more code cleaner, how you can follow the solid principle. I will come to this part later on. So that's why today I haven't talked about it. But yeah, thanks for this point today. But yeah, this is obviously recommended approach to follow through approach. So it should not be tightly coupled. And again, your code is more cleaner, more flexible, and more loosely coupled. Yes, Ankit.
Yeah, so my question was like, I am not able to do the same thing in Swift. Actually, I am experienced in Swift,
You can do. Why you can do in
but
SwiftUI?
when I'm trying to create a object of the protocol and trying to hold it in the Swift UI view, it is
Uh-huh.
giving me some error. As far as I
What
know, actually, I'm learning Swift UI.
what kind of error you getting? Could you tell me?
I'll need to check that again. Maybe I tried it earlier, so
One thing, again you try, and if you're getting any error, let me know. Then we'll see. I think something you're missing, because it's not about again ki this approach also going to work with SwiftUI also. It's not about ki UI kit it's fine with this approach and SwiftUI will not. It's not like that. So it's basically, see, protocol is basically providing you this layer, right? This is an abstraction layer. That's it. So even your view protocol, or if you're defining protocol as a view model, that is completely fine. I don't think any problem should be there. But still, if you're facing any problem, let me know. Or you can share your code with, then I can look into it. Okay, what actually is getting missing there? So cool. Okay. Yeah. Thanks everyone. So we'll see you in the next session. Rohit, yeah, that actually again depends on your project context. So I can't directly answer you on this thing, but I will come to TCA part later on. Then we will discuss about MVVM versus TCA. Okay, we'll come to in the coming sessions to TCA also. But also TCA is again important. I found in recent interviews, people are asking about TCA also. So those people who are not aware about TCA, at least you have some basic understanding of TCA, Viper, and all these architecture patterns, or even clean architecture. So cool. We'll come to this part, right? And again, it depends on your project context. It's not about a straightforward answer, which is better and which is not. It's not like that. Cool. Mhm. Okay, so mostly the next session will be on Friday evening or Saturday afternoon. I will let you know. And in the meantime, please make sure you practice all those basic topics of SwiftUI, which we have covered so far, or go through the recordings and have some hands-on or practice on those topics. And in the coming session, we're going to cover some interview questions, set of questions on the basic topics which we have covered so far. Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for joining, and good night. Take care. See you in the next session. Yeah. Thank you.